Welcome to Smoke and Mirrors with Sarah Stark, the podcast that takes you behind the curtain of the dark art of public relations. Let's see who our guest is today. When the term PR queen was coined, it was referring to Fleur Madden, icon of the industry in Brisbane, Queensland, and recognised nationally amongst the who's who of PR circles. There is much to cover with Fleur, so a double episode is in order. Firstly, we're talking starting a PR firm from scratch and scaling it fast, which Fleur has done more than once over her 20-year career and with great success. Our next episode after this one is an in-depth dive into preparing a service business for sale, what the market is looking for in this type of business, and how to prepare well in advance to maximise your sale price. Miss Fleur Madden, welcome to Smoke and Mirrors.
Ooh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, firstly, let's get a background of your career.
Sure.
It has been nuanced and interesting and complex and very, very successful. So, give us a short background in a couple of minutes.
Okay, I'll give you the quick rundown. So, I graduated from the University of Queensland at the top of broadcast journalism, and I thought that I would just get a job in TV straight away, but that was a year where they were cutting all jobs, even regional TV jobs were being cut. And so a few people said to me, you could work in PR. And PR was an industry that was absolutely in its infant stages. I hadn't studied PR, I'd studied journalism. I didn't even know what PR was. But I applied for a few roles and I actually got offered two positions, and one was with Graham Stark at Winning Directions.
Oh, I know him.
Yes, I believe you might know him. And Graham took a chance on me. I was straight out of university, but it was a good chance. I mean, I think it was a good bet he made on me. I ended up being the manager of that office within 12 months. I was thinking about this, obviously knowing I was coming on the podcast. I didn't know what we did in PR. Like, I didn't understand the relationship between journalists and PR people, which at that point was so critical. And there was a lovely girl in the Brisbane office called, I think her name was Carissa, and she was only there for a year. And I don't know if you remember her because we were at Winning Directions at the same time.
I don't remember her.
And she was there for a really short period. But she really taught me what PR was.
Wow.
And so I worked for Graham for a short period. I then got headhunted by Today Tonight. So I ended up going back into media. I also worked for the Sunday Mail for a few years. I had my own column there called Posh Space. It was a property column. So, and obviously I'd done a lot of property PR, then had the property column. I also was a freelance reporter for ABC television on weekends, and I actually worked for Channel 9 on the Gold Coast as a freelance reporter as well.
Wow.
So was definitely in the media. And then I got another job in PR part-time, helping an advertising agency set up their PR division. And they told me that they were going to pay me all this commission if I brought work in. So I brought all the work in, and then they said, oh, no, we're not paying you the commission now. I can't remember what the reason for that was. And so I said, well, that's no problem. I've just brought in all this business. I'm leaving and I'm going to start my own PR agency. Okay. And I went and leased a new office in Fortitude Valley in Brisbane, and I took a 5-year lease. Now, my parents were like, what are you doing? And I was still at the Sunday Mail part-time, so I only was in the business part-time, but I had a few staff, and we just kept winning business. Now, this was back in the day where there was no consumer PR agencies in Brisbane. There was the big corporate ones like Roland and Phillips, and they might have had one consumer person.
So we're talking 2005?
2004, 2003, end of 2003.
Yeah.
And that was called Red PR.
Yes.
So, and I had Red PR for 10 years, and then we rebranded the business to the Red Republic.
Yes.
And I ended up selling, so I started Red PR when I was 23. I sold the Red Republic when I was 36.
Wow.
Or 37, around there, to a multinational based out of the US.
Which one?
It was McCann World Group.
Wow. Okay. Yep.
And so we can talk about that sale as well, or what I can share about that sale, and perhaps the lead up. And when I exited the business, we had offices in Brisbane, Sydney, the Gold Coast, and Los Angeles. And then I also had a beauty company as well in that time period that I also sold. So that was Lulu and Lipstick, and it was an e-commerce business. So we specialized obviously in consumer brands, property, hospitality, fashion, beauty, and travel. So we were listed as one of the top 10 travel PR agencies around the world. But we were doing a lot in the e-com space, and here I am making all this money for e-com brands. And I'm like, hang on a minute, I should be doing this for myself. So I started an e-com beauty business called Lulu and Lipstick.
Wow.
I then went on and sold that only 2.5 years later. We can talk about that too. And then I kind of thought I was retiring. I was like 38, had sold Lulu, had sold Red. And that lasted 18 months and I was super bored. Launched another business, which was a digital marketplace for women, looking for part-time freelance or contract work, freelancing gems. I just sold that 4 months ago. And I've always had a consulting business on the side. So that's the Ginsburg Firm. And the consulting business helps, it's a business coaching business, and it helps female founders to scale or to sell their business. So that's like my career journey in a bit of a nutshell.
Amazing. Amazing. You're amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So look, you know what's really interesting, just going back to the start there?
Yeah.
I didn't do PR either.
Oh, wow.
I did business.
Yes.
I just did business and marketing.
Okay.
And I got my first job in PR after working at Hard Rock Cafe for 4 years. I just happened to meet Graham Stark through that.
Yes, there we go, Graham.
And I had no idea what PR was. And I had no idea the relationship between the journalists either.
No.
And it completely just learnt on the spot. And here we are 20, 25 years later.
Exactly.
Still doing it.
And it has changed. I mean, the relationship between media and PR has changed dramatically from what it was when you and I first started. Like when we first started, it was hand in hand.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they need the story, we could provide it.
Yeah.
You know, now it's a harder game. There's a lot of pay to play. Like it's a different situation.
Completely different game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think journalists have changed. Like journalists appreciate PR people now. 25 years ago, 20 years ago, they did not like us.
Oh, absolutely.
Generally, they didn't
We were
like
called
us.
the dark side.
Well, we still are.
Are we? Okay. See, I'm
the darkest.
You know, I mean, I feel like I'm not in the PR industry anymore, but I use PR and what I learned in PR in every business I have.
Yeah, amazing. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get to that.
Okay.
All right, so you've gone back to the beginning.
Yes.
You've kind of answered my first question in that, you know, how you started in PR and why you chose to go out on your own at such a young age. So you'd gotten the business and they didn't want to pay your commission, so you thought, I'll go and do it myself.
Yeah, look, I ran the numbers. So this is something that I don't think PR people, or, you know, if there's women in business listening to this, women in business are always like ick about their numbers. They're always like, I don't really know my numbers. Know your numbers.
Numbers are my favourite bit.
Absolutely. Know your numbers.
Accountant.
You should have been.
Yeah.
So I ran the numbers and looked at it and went, well, I'm making all this money for them, but I brought in all the business. That doesn't make any sense. And where do the relationships fall? They fall with me.
Yeah.
So I didn't leave with all the clients. I just said, I'm going to start my own shop.
Yeah, because there'd be legal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm that's not
ethical.
my gig. Yeah. I'm not about that. But there was no PR person left there. So they obviously probably did migrate across to me.
Yeah.
And I think now looking back, when you're 23, you don't have the same sense of risk that I would have if I was building a business, and I am building a business today.
Yeah.
You know, I understand what can go wrong. I understand the money that you need to invest to get a business to where it is. The reality is Red PR or the Red Republic grew and matured with me.
Yeah, okay.
So if I was starting a PR agency today, it wouldn't look the way it looked when I started Red PR. You know, I know what you have to do. I know what it takes. Whereas definitely the industry was in its infant stages in consumer PR. And I was in my infant stages as a business owner. So definitely over 16 years, which is where it got to when I finally did exit, it had grown with me.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you get, so you had 4 offices, you said, by the time you sold.
Yeah.
What were your strategies to get clients?
Yeah, sure.
So did you have, I believe there's kind of two ways of doing business that I've experienced in my career, and that is go hard, chase business. And, you know, you've got mouths to feed when you run a consultancy.
100%.
The other one is let it come to you. And I've always been the latter because I don't feel comfortable with the chase.
Yeah.
And clients have just seemed to come to me.
Yeah.
But I don't have a lot of mouths to feed anymore. I did at one point. Yeah. When you had how many staff did you have? Oh
gosh. Look, I mean, between all the offices and then different consultants and freelancers, there were probably up to 50.
Yeah. So that's not sleeping at night.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a lot of households to
Yeah,
be
it is.
responsible for.
Yeah.
What were your strategies for getting clients?
Mhm.
We'll talk about maintaining
Okay.
later.
So first of all, I think you can only get so far with clients coming to you. And when you don't have mouths to feed, that's cool because it's just you've got to feed. And I think I'm a huge believer in strong brand. A brand is an asset in your business. So hear that again, brand is an asset in your business. In every business I've sold or that I've been part of, I have attracted a buyer because my brand is so strong. I have attracted staff because my brand is so strong. People are watching you. Clients are watching. They're watching your social media channels. They're checking out your website. They're looking at what events you sponsor. They're looking at what events you're partnering with. Brand is your biggest asset. So I always have been a brand advocate. I've always been very strong in that area for myself and for the businesses that I create. And so at a certain point, though, I almost distinctly remember it. I can remember what office we were in. We were at New Farm. I think I was about 27 and the GFC hit. So business doesn't just come in anymore, right?
Yeah.
It was desperate. We were,
and to be honest, PR is a luxury, not a
100%.
necessity. So it's the first thing to go.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we were a property PR agency.
Yeah.
And it's a GFC. I can distinctly remember one day getting like 5 phone calls from property developers and real estate just saying, Fleur, we've got to cut you and we're cutting you today and your last 2 bills we can't pay. And I probably at that point maybe had 10 staff.
27 years old,
10 staff.
And you'd be like, okay, I'm turning my phone off now.
I actually closed my office door, like smiling, and then laid on the ground in the fetal position. Like I was like, what? Are we allowed to swear? Because PR people swear.
Yes, it's a podcast.
Like, what the fuck are we going to do, right? You know, so I am a hustler. I'm not waiting.
You are a hustler.
I am a hustler, baby. I am not waiting for someone to come knock on my door. I'm going to tell you why you should work with me. Yeah. So at that point, we had to, look at the business structure. We were a property PR agency where really that was a defining moment of us becoming a consumer PR agency because we picked up Domino's. When times are tough, people still order fast food.
Okay. How'd you pick up Domino's?
Oh, well, I actually can't remember exactly how, but I would have contacted them.
Did you just pick up the phone and say, who are you using? Why are you using them? Why not using me? Was PR, because everyone's got a PR agency now.
Yes.
Did they have a PR agency? Can you remember?
They would have had a PR agency 100%.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer that I'm going to connect with you. I'm going to show you why we're so good so that when an opportunity comes up, I'm the first person you're thinking of.
Yeah, okay.
So I would have reached out. I don't know if I reached out to them at that moment or if I'd reached out to them 6 months before. I mean, it's a long time ago. Yeah. I'm 44 now. But we picked up Domino's who were, and I'll talk about my business development strategies in a minute, but we picked up Domino's who were obviously fast food. We got into beauty because people will still buy lipstick, but they may not be able to afford to go on a major holiday. We did start picking up travel, mostly domestic, but we ended up having a lot of international destinations as well. And so at that point, we diversified and we had different teams that worked on within the business. Like we had our beauty team and our fashion team and travel team, etc. So we diversified the business and we had to become hunters. So my expectation of my senior people was, yes, you work on the campaigns, but how many campaigns are you keeping? Are we upselling to these customers? Like where's the opportunity? Should we be doing their EDM? This was 2007. So we were very early adopters of social media. It was just really Facebook, right, at that point. So we started using Facebook and
because people at that stage weren't using Facebook for business.
Never.
That was unheard of.
And there was actually a gentleman who's, a famous journalist these days, Shannon Malloy, and he was really early adopter of Facebook and wanted to implement it in our business. And I was like, sure, go for it. And I think being young in business, you have the opportunity to be a lot more dynamic. So we had a very robust social media division within 5 years of that. And we had people that just specialized in digital and social. So we were at the forefront of that for businesses. So in looking at how did you in those days, because so many people were doing social media almost as if it's just an add-on to their PR services and not charging. Oh yeah, crazy.
So you were because you were doing it so well,
Yes.
your clients were happy to pay for it.
Look, I think we probably started off on very small retainers initially just to prove
that it worked.
Prove that it worked, get people, to see the traffic that it drove or what it created for their business. Because truly in 2007, people didn't know.
And there was
what it would do.
like Facebook ads or boosting or anything like that.
No,
so
there wasn't.
All organic.
Yeah, all organic. And, it was easier to connect with people possibly than what it is now.
Yeah.
And so it was over time that division grew. And then when we were able to show results, for instance, especially in an e-com business, that we were able to drive this much traffic, that the campaign delivered this many, turnover dollars, etc. It was then that we were able to charge more. And then we started PR, social media retainers. So I'm all about the retainer, which we're going to talk about. But then in terms of new business, I think there's certain steps that I always take regardless of what business I'm in. So first of all, brand. Brand's super important because I want them to come to me.
Yeah.
But if they're not going to come to me, I'm going to go knock on their door. So I would do campaigns every year, different campaigns where we would do a send out of something beautiful that is going to sit on their desk. And I'm also going to include information on my business. And I love a handwritten card. I still do a handwritten card.
Gorgeous.
So, let's say it was Domino's. I don't know if we did this to Domino's or not. I can't remember, but we had Domino's, we had Suncorp, we had Flight Centre, like we had some big brands. And I would have sent a handwritten card saying, Don, we love what you're doing over at Domino's. We'd love to be considered and throw our hat into the ring. Please think of us should an opportunity come up.
Love it.
And most people don't receive that and think, oh, that was so rude. They receive it and go, wow, thank you so much for taking that time.
Yeah, yeah.
So we would reach out. I'd add them into my EDM. So they'd get EDMs from us, monthly or whatever we were doing at that point in time. I'd invite them to events as my guest. So, I'm about the long game. You may not need me today, but you might need me in 12 months or 2 years, and I need to be the first person you're thinking of.
Yeah.
We'd also host our own events. So I'm a really big believer in owning the brand experience.
Yeah.
So we would do a few of our own events a year. We would always do a big International Women's Day event, and that's something that I think I've been known for in our industry in terms of I still hold big International Women's Day events. And initially it was 10 clients sitting around a table, and then by the end when I left the Red Republic, FG is a different business, the Red Republic, there were guests coming in Brisbane, Sydney, Gold Coast and Los Angeles, and we were having separate lunches and people around the table. It's about connection, and we worked with the Red Republic on this. I saw that campaign. That's awesome. And then by the end of those events, they'd be like, I need to speak to you. We've got something coming up.
Yeah.
So use it as the business development opportunity. And so, no, I don't wait. I'm a hustler.
Yeah. Absolutely a hustler. Love it. I love it. So would you say in those days and even now that you are your brand or your business is your brand?
There's always a bit of me in every business in terms of my personal brand, but I am proud to say that those brands stand alone. Like when I sold the Red Republic, I had a management team in place of amazing, strong women who were professionals, top of their game. We had a great team underneath. Everybody lived and breathed that brand. Yes, I created it, but it was certainly, I think there was always a question, was the Red Republic me or was I the Red Republic? And the Red Republic can stand on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lulu and Lipstick, totally different looking brand, but there was an element of me in there too. Unfortunately with Lulu and Lipstick, it sold quickly after I sold it to RY. And then they sold their whole company quickly afterwards. And I think it got a little bit lost. And they never really did that much with it, which was such a shame because I built that Instagram up myself or started it. And it had like 7,000 followers within like 12 months.
Wow.
So, it was back in the day where you could get a lot of traction on Insta pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Freelancing Gems, I had business partner Kirsty, and it was certainly part of our personal brand, but it stands alone. So I think that is the sign of a really great brand when it's not just about the founders anymore and it can stand by itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about your services and how many staff you had, so that's fine. Let's talk retainers or hourly fees.
Yeah. Oh, look, No to hourly, no to hourly, no to hourly.
Yeah,
So,
same.
yeah, look,
Yeah.
it has to be retainer or a project base.
Yeah.
You're not paying for my time. I have 21 years experience. You're paying for what I can deliver for you.
It's not sustainable either for a business.
It isn't anymore. Yeah. Absolutely not. And also in PR, you put in so many more hours. If you were charging hourly, in some ways they couldn't afford you.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for you internally, for PR agency owners that are listening to this, it's important for you to track your hours. So that's something that I feel creative businesses always struggle with.
Yeah.
And any agency owner that I've coached, I've always implemented time billing for the purpose of you understanding what your business does, and you understanding how many hours the team has in capacity, etc. Not so you can bill clients that way.
It's more of an internal tool.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so over the years, I've obviously coached a lot of agency owners, and it was interesting because when I sold the Red Republic, I had no intention of doing that. That wasn't on my radar at all. And people that had competed with me for years were knocking on my door saying, we want to do what you've done. Can you please coach us?
Yeah.
And there was one or two I really didn't want to coach because I'm like, I don't like you. And you've done some really unethical things over the years to me.
Yeah.
And they badgered me and badgered and badgered me until I did. And, you know, that's been an interesting journey as well. And I've helped agency owners sell, marketing agencies, social media agencies, not just PR, ad agencies.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can see what works. We all think we're doing something super unique. And what's interesting coaching so many agencies is quite often we're not. And so I'm a really big believer in having a niche.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So whether it's a niche for your customers or whether it's a niche in your service offering, like I do think these days people expect a lot from PR. So they expect you to be events managers, crisis comms, social media experts. So I do think there's digital agencies that can easily stand alone. But if you're in PR these days, you kind of need to have a lot of skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I was opening up a PR agency tomorrow, I'd be very specific with who I'm servicing, what I bring to the table for them. I wouldn't be all things to everybody.
Yeah. So what does that look like though? Does it look like specializing in a certain industry? Does it look like only offering certain services and then referring other specialist services you don't offer?
Yeah, I think it can be a little bit broader than just specifically industry to industry. Like we were consumer. I thought that was a niche, and it is 100%. But these days I'd niche down further. I'd be like, we are the specialists in beauty and fashion, for instance.
Yeah.
Or we help female founders to do X, Y, and Z. That's why at the Ginsburg, I help female founders to grow or sell. Like that's what I do. You know, I mean, I do work with a few men, don't tell too many people. And I love men, so it's not a problem, but I'm passionate and my mission is to help more women. So, and when I had Lulu and Lipstick, for instance, our niche was hard to find beauty brands from around the world.
Wow.
And that was before Sephora was in Australia. And it was before Mecca had shops everywhere. I don't even know if we had a shop. I don't know if we had a Mecca in Queensland when I had Lulu or we had one. So, you know, I was I was early in that business as well. And then freelancing gems was to help female freelancers, contractors, or women looking for part-time. So niche.
Yeah, all female.
I love a niche. And it is all female orientated. I mean, my mission is to help as many women as I possibly can.
Yeah.
In business.
Well, I think you do that. I think that comes across very strongly.
Thank you.
So what was the hardest thing about managing a consultancy or any of the businesses that you've done really? What would you say?
You see that look on my face? I'm like rolling my eyes. How many hard things?
Yeah, like what keeps you awake most at night? Because I don't think anyone has a business and doesn't lie awake at night. What would you say is the hardest thing about that, and how you may tackle it differently now, or if you look back?
Oh, look, I mean, I was super young with the Red Republic, right? And we had a lot of staff. So people management. Yeah. I mean, now the way I lead is totally different to how I led as a 23-year-old, right? We're always developing. We're always learning and growing. And also the agency environment at that time, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, et cetera, it was, you know, you were there early, you were there late. There was no work-life balance. There was no hybrid working environment, none of that jazz. If somebody asked you to work from home, you'd be like, what are you talking about? The team needs you.
Yeah.
You know, now at Freelancing Gems, we only ever worked in the office twice a week. It was all hybrid work. And, you know.
You certainly didn't leave at 5 o'clock either.
Absolutely.
No.
So times have changed. The way you manage people has changed. My style has changed. I think you're not the right manager or leader for everybody. And certainly if you've got more than just a handful of staff, that's definitely going to be the case. And so I think learning as a young person not to take that personally. I love to create opportunities for people. I had some absolute superstars who worked for me for 10 plus years, but they worked their way up the food chain, and I love that I was able to create that opportunity for them, and they're still superstars. They're still shining in the industry.
What did you look for when you hired your staff?
Yes.
What did you look for in a superstar?
So I think that's really important for us to know in any business that we're in, is to identify what that A-type staff member looks like. And if you've got a lot of staff, you're not just going to have the A's, right? There's going to be the B team. Occasionally there's a C team. And you have to make peace with the B team. It's okay. If you've got really high performers, that B person sounds tough, right? But that B person could be an A in another organization. But in a PR agency environment or any creative agency environment, everyone is a high performer. So it's just what level of high performer. So certainly the red PR factor would have been energy, something dynamic about them, highly skilled, prepared to get their hands dirty. We're not standing on the sidelines. We're doing it all. So that we would have absolutely looked for that passion for the industry and passion for leveling up and learning. We were very big into our professional development as a team, and that's something that I think kept my staff for a long time as well. And we would have like annual conferences, and we'd have lunch and learns, and we'd have quarterly management
Really
offsites.
creating that company culture.
Definitely. And that was something that was really strong. So if you had someone on the team that didn't fit the culture, they almost self-selected out.
Yeah.
It wasn't for them. They couldn't work those hours. They weren't as passionate.
So do you think that company culture helped keep those A team working for you for 10 years? Because, so many people just go out on their own.
Yeah.
Like you did, like I did.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily, you're going to make more money, you're going to have more freedom.
Yeah.
So do you think it's a certain type of person that goes out on their own, or do you think it is the company culture that you created, or a combination of the two?
I think at that time, not a lot of people were going out on their own. Like people wanted to be in a team environment. I'm loath to say we were like a family, because ultimately we weren't family. We were professional colleagues, but there was a sense of camaraderie in the Red Republic that is beautiful, and I've not seen again. I haven't had a team of that size again, so perhaps that's why. And of course, there were certain times where, there wasn't that same camaraderie. I think back to times where there was some poison in the team, and what I would say now is, if I was coaching someone, cut fast and cut deep. And I didn't. I maybe gave people warnings, let one person go, then the next month let someone else go. Nope, cut them all, move on. I'm a lot tougher, but also I can see in other people's businesses where the changes need to happen. But when you're in it yourself, it's so hard to see that. And I now hope I'm providing services for young Fleur that didn't have anybody to call on. I was isolated. Absolutely. I did join an international group called PROI, and it's the world's leading independently owned agencies from around the world. And I remember when I was asked to join that, thinking like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And then I went to the first conference, and I had to stand up in a room, and like, if you can envision somebody on a stage, and then there's people seated all around in a square sort of around the stage of other agency owners who were the world's leading, and going, holy shit, okay, this is a big deal. And I was part of PROI, I think, for about 10 years, and I ended up being their Asia Pacific chairwoman. And that allowed me to grow my business. So I was looking at what the world's leading were doing. I'm like, I'm not coming back to next year's conference unless I've leveled up. Like, I'm going to implement this system. I'm going to grow this division. I'm going to rebrand. I'm going to do this. And I was benchmarking myself off the best of the best. And that was pivotal in my growth. And what I would say to other agency owners listening is, like, where are you getting your growth? Where are you getting your inspiration? And at that time, I was getting a lot of it internationally. I don't think coaching was as big a thing then. The business coaches I knew of were like, what is it? Brian Tracy International. I don't even know if that's still around. And it was like really, just really, I think, stale looking, and also very corporate and also very male.
Yes.
So I did join a few groups at that time, like Tech and EO. I would often be the only woman in the room. And I'm sure that's changed these days. But I want to create tables where women can share and women can grow and they can develop. We don't have to go offshore. We can do that here. And like, don't get me wrong, I love an international conference, still go to them. But I just think there's more support we can get from within Australia these days than what I had. I would sit in the car and cry. You know, I remember the first time I realized you had to pay tax. I was 23 and I'd been running the business for must have been a few months. And then all of a sudden I got a tax bill and I went out to the car park because I had staff and I rang my dad and I'm like, I just got a tax bill. I can't remember what it was. It felt like 100,000. It was probably 10. Yeah. And Dad's like, yeah, what do you mean? And I'm like, I didn't know I couldn't spend all the money.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember seeing the same thing.
I didn't know these things, right? We
and then at the end of the year you get another one.
I know. What?
All I've done
every
is pay
quarter
tax
you get
every
one.
month.
I know. It's terrible.
More?
And
then you got to it's crazy, isn't it?
And look, don't get me started on tax because tax in small business is crippling in Australia. And anyway, we won't talk about that. But, you know, I didn't know these things. I wasn't a business owner. I had to learn over the years to become, business is now my craft. PR is not my craft. Business is my craft. And I think if you're a business owner in whatever industry you're in, business has to become your craft and you've got to level up every year.
Yeah. Love it. Now, speaking of agencies, do you feel as though the model of a PR consultancy is dead?
Oh gosh, that's a big call. Look, I mean,
do you think people want more boutique, or do you think they still want the larger agencies that can offer more than just PR? Just a PR agency that just does PR and social media.
Yeah.
Is that still a viable option?
Look, I think it's tough because I think it swings in roundabouts. Some years people want a big agency. Some years they want boutiques. Some years they want freelancers. Like you're like, oh my goodness, what is this year? Like, I don't know what we're going to get, but I do think PR agencies have to evolve. Yeah. Now, what I mean by that is I recently had a coaching session with some agency owners and I looked at their website. These guys do great work, okay? Website did not reflect it. It was the same website that probably had for 5 years. Now, one of the things people, when they hit your website now, what in terms of professional services, what they're looking for is what value can they get really quickly? Do you have a downloadable tool they can get that demonstrates you are the leader in this? Like, what's a checklist you could give that isn't giving away too much of your business, but it's still allowing them to realize, oh, I got something free, and guess what? We got their data. So, like, how are we building up our databases these days? You know, I think with social too, sometimes we get so caught up that we're doing our clients' work. We're not doing our own work. You know, how are we going to attract great staff if we're not demonstrating what it's like to work a day at X, Y, and Z? So I think there's so many things we need to evolve in as agency owners.
Once again, it's coming back to that brand.
It is. I love brand. I don't know if you're picking up what I'm putting down, but I love brand. But I also think too, I just think we have to get a bit more savvy with the digital side as well for ourselves, for our own business, even if it's not services we're offering. You know, is there, for instance, an online course that people could buy from your business that allows them, it's another entry point. Now, I do think it is getting harder and harder to justify straight publicity when there's a spend attached to it as well. So therefore we have to have other skills. There are, you know, I still get asked for PR recommendations. There's still a few PR people I absolutely recommend because I know they deliver and I know they do superb work, but I think the model has to change.
Yeah. So just talking about that and pay for play, how much longer do you think is left in the traditional distribution of a media release and placing free editorial?
Oh gosh, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think for years I've thought surely this will end soon. And it always astounds me when I'm like, oh, we have to pay for that? It was interesting though. I recently did my own PR for something. So I sold a business 4 months ago and I was like, oh, we need some press for this. And now keep in mind, I've not been in the Red Republic for, it must be coming up almost 7 years. And I wrote a press release and I was like, still got it. It was very good, I must admit. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to send this out. Now, I did call on a few PR mates and say, guys, I don't have any contacts anymore. Can you send me a database? Now, normally you can never do that, right? But good friends. And I sent it out. I think I got a hit at everybody I sent it to. I think we had about 6 hits. And the media were still the same media. So I was quite surprised. And I'd have people respond and go, hey, Fleur, haven't heard from you in a long time. I'm like, yeah, 7 years.
Wow.
And they're like, sure, I'll run this for you tomorrow. And what it spoke to me about was relationships. Like I had very strong relationships and I have not been pitching for 7. In fact, I wouldn't have pitched even long before that because I was not on the tools at Red in 5 or 6 years before I sold it. But people still remember me from that time. And I got a hit because it's a good story.
Yep.
It delivered for their readers. That's their readers. I pitched to the right person. Like the art has not changed. The art is still the same. If you are still good at that, you can do some great work for your clients. I just think we need to expand at our services and we need a modern approach.
Yeah, yeah. And do you think we need to let clients know up front that the industry has changed and that there will be pay-for-play options? Do you think that's something that, just say you've landed a great client, again, whatever it may be, and they are only wanting the free editorial. I'm at a space now where I go, okay, yes, I can do free editorial to this point, but if you want this, and this, it's going to be pay for play.
Yeah.
A client yesterday sent me something from The Australian that ran on the weekend and it was sponsored content, but it was, it looked like editorials. So I had to explain that to him that your angle is not strong enough to get in The Australian. You can read it that it's sponsored content. So how much of that expectation do we need to talk to our clients about from the outset?
Look, I remember back at the Red Republic days, we were already putting into proposals like our professional fees to get you press plus up the spend for pay.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
So we were doing that back
for
then.
A while.
Yeah. And now
And how did they respond to that?
Like we had some big clients, right? So some of them, it wasn't a problem. For smaller clients, of course, every penny counts. And I guess it depends what their goal is. Like if you want to be in The Australian and you don't have a strong enough story and we've got to pay for it, that's what we've got to do. So I want to achieve your goals. This is what's going to achieve your goals.
Yeah. And what platform is going to reach your market? So you can get as much free editorial as you like over here.
Yes.
But your market's not reading that. So if you need this, then it's a shortcut to the market.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I just think we can't be afraid to talk about money. And also remember, most clients are not skilled in PR. So they're just going to go along with our expert recommendation. And if our expert recommendation is that spend, I mean, I'd be packaging it in a way so it's like you're getting this and this.
Yeah, both.
You're getting both. Like we can deliver both for you.
Yep, hitting this audience, hitting that audience. Yeah, and this is what it's going to cost.
And we're sensational writers. Now that the art of being a sensational writer, I think is lost in PR these days as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Some of the ladies that are my vintage or our vintage, they're still phenomenal writers. I was starting to see when I was leaving Red that wasn't always the case. When we were interviewing for staff, we would always do a written test.
Wow, yeah, absolutely.
And
you expect that.
100%. And some of the writing coming through, I'm like, ooh, like who's going to train this bird?
Into AI. We've got another episode all on AI and ChatGPT and and critical thinking around that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an opportunity. It's also a risk, obviously. Not a risk. It's an opportunity. It is a risk to the industry if you don't tap into it.
Yeah.
You have to figure out how you're going to do that. And I have seen some people doing some amazing things with that. For instance, a award writing agency is building their own AI.
Yeah.
So
I've heard of that happening.
Yeah. So absolutely I can see where people are being early adopters and using it to, to benefit them, not to work against what they provide.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So just to finish off this episode, and we will go into the next episode.
That's gone so quick. I can't believe we've been talking for this long.
I know. Top 3 tips. So just for everyone listening, our next episode, we're going to do a deep dive into preparing for a sale in a service business. Yep. So I think it's a very nuanced and interesting topic. So we will get right into the depth of that in the next ep. But just to finish this one off, what are your top 3 tips for anyone wanting to grow a PR or comms firm?
Brand. Let's go with brand. Have a strong brand. Look at how you're showing up for your customers, for your staff, and are you being magnetic in that? Are you being bold in that? Like people want to work with the best of the best. Are you demonstrating that you're the best of the best? Because I think that's imperative. That's number 1. Number 2, The only way to grow an agency and scale is through people, because we're selling our time. Now, even if we're on retainers, it still has to be achieved in a certain amount of time. So we can't just hold on to, we're going to do it all ourselves. There's no one else that can do it better than us. That's not true. That's a story you're telling yourself. We need to build out the right people, find the right people to be able to grow our team to make more money. Now, we could talk about structures of PR agencies all day. At a certain point, you don't make more money. You need to break through to that next level of growth so that you, again, make more money off your people. But that's how an agency grows. Or if we've got great products we can develop within the business that is like a specific, like media training, social media, etc. Products within the business that we're able to sell as well. So your people and developing the right people would definitely be one of the areas I'd say to scale, and also looking at your business development structures. So again, we spoke about that at the beginning. We can't wait for people to knock on our door. We've got to go knock on theirs.
Yeah.
And you can't be the only rainmaker. So if you're an agency owner and you are the only one bringing in new business, your business won't grow. When I did step out of the Red Republic, we had full management team, MD, GM, creative director, and we also had a manager in Brisbane, Sydney, Gold Coast, and Los Angeles. So all those people hunted.
Yep.
And they had KPIs attached to it. They had bonuses attached to it.
Yeah.
So look at your BD and look at how you can develop that further.
Yeah, wonderful. And I think just very lastly, quickly, but money and women, I think we need to understand to charge our worth. People want to pay for good work.
Absolutely.
And I just think it is just a big mistake to go in cheap.
I always go in a bit higher because you've got somewhere to fall.
Me too.
And look, I think with that too, there isn't a week that passes where someone doesn't send me their proposal and ask for my feedback on their pricing. And without fail, I go back and say, you need to put your pricing up.
Prices up. And is that a woman thing, do you think?
Yeah, it is. Because as women, we do suffer from imposter syndrome. We also worry that people won't sign with us if we're too expensive.
Yeah.
Like I am and look, I've thought that myself before over the years. It isn't like I'm immune to it, but at the end of the day, if you were the best, then you need to charge as if you are the best. And I remember when we launched in Sydney, we kept our Brisbane pricing and we weren't winning as much work. And I was getting feedback saying like, loved your proposal, but we went with someone else. And I'm like, what is going on here? They were paying them more.
Yeah, because people think they're going to get what they pay for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and generally they do. If you can charge those prices, then that's because you've done good work. So charge the friggin' prices.
100%
Put
agree
them
with you.
up.
Yes.
I'm a massive, massive believer in that.
And look, everyone's put their prices up the last few years. And I was actually thinking about it the other day going at the Ginsburg, I have not put up my prices in 4 years. But I tell everyone else, you should put up your prices. And I'm like, but I haven't. So I need to take my own advice. But yeah, I think for women specifically, we're not good with talking about money. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem chasing money in terms of if you owe me money, I will chase it, because I had mouths to feed. I have to do that,
Me too. It's just rude not to pay on time.
Yes, definitely. Oh, look, I haven't always paid on time, but I have paid.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for having me. This has been an awesome stroll down memory lane for me a bit.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, we thank you so much. We could talk all day. I find you absolutely fascinating.
Oh, thank you.
So smart, such a hustler. I just love it. And you deserve every success you've had.
Thank you very much.
So hang around for the next episode where we're going to be talking all things selling a business. So very specifically around service businesses. So it is very different.
Yeah.
You've done it with great success on numerous occasions. So I want to know how to do that.
Yeah. And if you're a business owner, you need to listen to this next episode.
Yeah.
We have all thought about selling at some point.
Yeah. And if you haven't thought about selling, you need to think about it.
Yes, you do.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Fleur.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Smoke and Mirrors. It takes a village to pull a professional podcast together. If you found value in today's episode, myself and the team would much appreciate your support via a like or comment for the episode, a quick subscribe to the series, or sharing the content with others who may find the discussions of interest. I'd like to thank my range of incredible guests, the production team at Focal Media. Without their talent and support, this podcast would not be possible.